First, giving all praises and honor to Yahweh Bashem Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. All praises due. Shalom to my Israel and Rod of Iron family. My name is Mahir Melika, and welcome to the Outwalk channel, Daughters with Daggers, where we continuously seek edification from the truth of the scriptures. So today, I was thinking, man, so sisters, we are currently going through trying times, like very exhausting times. We have where we found the truth, but we have family members that are refusing to, wanting to know who they are. They're refusing, we're suffering with losing family members because we found the truth and they feel that, maybe this is kind of cultish, or they feel that we're being misled, which is not the truth by no means. And so family members are, steering away. Friends, best friends you've known for years are steering away. We're suffering from losses. We're suffering from losses of illnesses, where families are, passing away or leaving because they've become ill, deaths in the family. We're suffering from, maybe our children, we are in the truth. Maybe our children are not trying to, get into this with us, not trying to learn about who they are, who they truly are. They're actually turning into the world. I was sitting watching TV, and sometimes it's suffering because, of course you watch it for the entertainment purposes. You might like Westerns, you might like, comedies, dramedies, all those things, right? So as soon as you turn on the TV, what you see? You thinking that you're getting into this movie, the shoot 'em ups and everything, and next thing you know, two men kissing, or two women kissing. So we're going through where the world is programming our children. So our children are, we're suffering with, worrying about, are they going to be okay? Are they going to get this truth? Are they going to get the understanding of who they are? And also what our Father does not like. So that we're suffering that. We're ailing, we're hurting, because we want our children, of course, to be with us. We want them to know who they are. So we're in a time of suffering, right? Where we're suffering. There are some people diagnosed with cancer. We have them suffering with, maybe not losing their job, or maybe working at a job where people just don't seem to feel that or believe that you're human. They treat you like shit. They, they just disregard your feelings. You're suffering with finding your voice. You're suffering with finding your place in this world, right? Or suffering, period, of knowing if, am I going to make it, or am I okay because of the things in the past that you might have done, or you might have endured, or, are done. Some people feel that their past, maybe they've done something that they felt that would cause them to be a separation from the Most High. They're suffering with that, wondering, like, did I make it? Well, just guess what? You repented then. I mean, that's why you're here. If you did not acknowledge the truth and have not accepted it, it'd be a totally different story. But because you accepted and He allowed you to see that and open your eyes to that, then yes, you're in the right place. Okay. So we're going to talk about long suffering today, because it's something that we are at these times dealing with. The pandemic, the different viruses that are being put out there. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I call it, because they're going down the alphabet. Or you have, the food. Every time you look up, they're talking about there's a contamination food recalled. Just went to the grocery store the other day. The meat aisle was almost empty. Okay. So you see that the world is suffering. And we, unfortunately, right now, we're a part of that because we're still in captivity. However, we in the process, eventually soon, to be out of this. Okay. So let's get into this. So let's go to Edom Online, and we're going to take a look at what long suffering means. Excuse me. So long suffering. It is patient endurance of pain or unhappiness. Okay. Patient endurance of pain, constantly in pain, constantly worrying, constantly not sure what's going to happen, what's going to take place, or being just unhappy. You're not happy with where you are. You're not happy that you're not making enough money. You're not happy that maybe the oct that you're dating or you're with or you're married to, he's not making enough money, or unhappy no matter what. You're just unhappy by anything that is happening around you. That's long suffering. Okay, so we're going to learn about that and we want to get out of that. So let's get to our scriptures. Okay, so let's find the truth. Let's see what the Most High have for us today. So let's go to the Gospel of Luke, chapter 8, verse 42 through 48. So we're going to the Gospel of Luke, chapter 8, verses 42 through 48. So today, while we're looking up the scripture, we're going to take a look at the woman with the issue of blood. Okay. Very, very great story for these times. So that we can also see that this woman, she was long suffering, and she's been suffering for a very long time, for about 12 years, with an issue of bleeding constantly for 12 years. Okay. So let's go to the Gospel of Luke, chapter 8, verse 42. We'll start. For he had one only daughter, about 12 years of age, and she lay, Salak. Okay, so before we get to Luke, we're going to go to Mark. I apologize. Salak, my sisters. Okay, so let's first go to the Gospel of Mark, chapter 5, verse 24 through 34. I'm jumping ahead of myself. Okay, so the Gospel of Mark, chapter 5, verse 24, and it reads, And Yahushua went with him, and much people followed him and thronged him. And a certain woman which had an issue of blood 12 years, verse 26, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing bettered, but rather grew worse. Okay. Verse 27, when she had heard of Yahushua, came in the press behind and touched his garment. For he said, if I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. Verse 29, and straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. Verse 30, and Yahushua, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, Who touched my clothes? Mark 5, verse 31. And his disciples said unto him, Thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and sayest thou, Who touched me? Verse 32. And he looked round about to see her that had done this thing. Verse 33. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. In verse 34. And he said unto her, Daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace and be whole of thy plague. Okay, so now we're going to go to the Gospel of Luke, chapter 8, verses 42 through 48. Okay. So the Gospel of Luke, chapter 8, verses 42 through 48. For he had one only daughter, about 12 years of age, and she lay a dying. But as he went, the people thronged him. Okay, so Yahushua was on his way to the synagogue to heal this elder's daughter. So as he was traveling, this is what was happening during this time. He was traveling to get there to help heal the daughter of this elder. So verse 43, and a woman having an issue of blood 12 years, which has spent all of her living upon physicians, neither could be healed of any. Verse 44, came behind him and touched the border of his garment, and immediately her issue of blood stanched. Okay. Verse 45, and Yahushua said, who touched me? When all denied, Peter and they were with him and said, Master, the multitude thronged thee and pressed thee, and sayest thou, who touched me? So they're saying, like, you being, everybody's thronging you. There's a lot of people around you. So, of course, a lot of people are touching you. But all of a sudden, you ask in this moment, who touched thee? When we were looking like, man, we're in disbelief because it's like a whole bunch of people are touching you at this time. So, verse 46. And Yahushua said, somebody hath touched me, for I perceive that virtue is gone out of me. Verse 47, and when the woman saw that she was not hid, she came trembling and falling down before him. She declared unto him before all the people for what cause she had touched him, and how she was healed immediately. Okay, so verse 48, and he said unto her, daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace. Okay. So can you imagine what it would be like to bleed for 12 years? Can you imagine? I mean, for one, I honestly at this time don't have that problem any longer. However, for 5 days was too much. 3 days is too much too, for me. You know, I'm not sure if anyone experienced that where, man, that is like the worst time for us as females, right? But we know it's a part of the process, right? So can you imagine what it'd be like to not on top of bleeding, but for 12 years to be considered during that time not to be clean? You're unclean during this time, right? So everyone knew that this woman was unclean because it was an Israelite law. Because she was unclean, she was cast out. So everybody knew her business. Everybody knew that because she had this issue for all this time, and everyone knew that she was not clean. And if everyone knew that in that moment, if they touched her, they would become unclean. Okay, so she was cast out. So for 12 years, not only was she bleeding and going through that traumatic experience for 12 years, okay, on top of that, people knew about this. And on top of that, people cast her out. So that had to be a very horrible experience for her. And of course, suffering experience for her because no one wanted to be around her, could be around her because of the issue that she was experiencing. Okay, so she believed that she was unworthy and damaged. Have you ever had that moment? Just speaking to one of my sisters because they were wondering if they were okay because of the things that they might have done in their past. You know, I see that, I mean, I've known some people that I've never done it. However, I know some people that have, you know, done drugs. You know, I don't want to, maybe crack, or some people might have robbed, or some people might have done some things that was kind of got them in trouble criminally. I don't know. Some people might have done things in their past that has been forgiven because they're woke to this truth. You know, because you repented back then, you're now woke to this truth that you feel that you're not worthy, you're damaged. And that's how this lady felt. She felt the same way. So she knew that the Most High was coming through town because, as I shared and as we learned in Luke, he was on his way to a synagogue. He was on his way to help this elder with the healing of his daughter who was sick and who was actually dying, right? So let's go to, there's a precept with that, Mark 5. So the Gospel of Mark, chapter 5, verses 21 through 24. So the Gospel of Mark, chapter 5, verse 21 reads, "And when Yahushua was passed over again by a ship unto the other side, much people gathered unto him, and he was nigh unto the sea. And behold, there cometh one of the rulers of thy synagogue, Jairus, by name. And when he saw him, he fell at his feet." Verse 23, "And besought him greatly, saying, My little daughter lieth at the point of death. I pray thee, come and lay thy hands on her, that she may be healed, and she shall live." Verse 24, "And Yahushua went with him, and much people followed him and thronged him." Okay, so that's where he was traveling to at this time. So this woman was probably at her this is like her last resort, right? She was very desperate. She was at wit's end. She was trying to, she was going places to doctors, to several different places to try to get healed. She's spending all of her money that she had to try to get healed. You hear about all these trials. It reminds me of all these trials that came out, right? This can heal you from cancer. This, if you try this, it can heal you from depression. Here's a trial. It's always these things, these gimmicks that are placed out there that said they can do these things, right? So she spent a lot of her money trying to do those things. And to no avail, nothing worked. A doctor could not heal her. In fact, the issue that she was having wound up getting worse. Okay? It wound up, developing to where every moment it was getting worse. She's bleeding more and more and more. Okay. So Israelite law declared her unclean due to the bleeding issue. Okay. So there's a precept to this. So we're going to go to Leviticus chapter 15, verse 25 through 27. So Leviticus chapter 15, verse 25 through 27. So let's start at verse 25, and it reads, "And if a woman have an issue of her blood, many days out of the time of her separation, or if it run beyond the time of her separation, all the days of the issue of her uncleanness, shall be as the days of her separation. She shall be unclean." Verse 26, "Every bed whereon she lieth all the days of her issue shall be unto her as the bed of her separation. And whatsoever she sitteth upon shall be unclean, as the uncleanness of her separation." Verse 27, "And whosoever touches those things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even." Okay, so this meant that she would not have been permitted to even enter the temple or for Israelite religious ceremonies. Okay, she could not come into the temple if she was unclean. So according to the law, anything or anyone she touched became unclean as well. Okay, the fact that she was pressing around to get close to Yahushua means that each person that she bumped into became unclean. Okay. But dealing with this issue, so it made her desperate. Like I said, she was looking for a miracle. She was at her wit's end. She was trying to, get to our Father, get to Yahushua, to just touch his clothes, just have a touch of his garment, so that she can be made whole. Okay, so when she heard about Yahushua, she came up behind him and so she touched him, like I said, the hem of his garment, because she thought if she did that, of course, she would be healed. So as soon as the woman touches Yahushua, her bleeding immediately stops, and she knew she was healed. Okay, she knew that once she touched it, she was healed. In an instant, Yahushua does what no doctor that she paid for everywhere she went could do. Okay? Nobody could do it but him. And this is for 12 years she went from pillar to post to try to find someone to help her. And in this instant, touching the hem of the garter of our Father healed her. Okay? But it also, so this proves the power that the Most High has. And of course, but it also illustrates an important point about Yahushua and the law. So let's go to Leviticus chapter 15, verse 31. And it reads, "Thus shall ye separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, that they die, not their uncleanness, when they defile my tabernacle that is among them." Okay, so in the Old Testament, the temple was where the Most High dwelled with the Israelites. Okay, so in the New Testament, though, the Most High dwelled among the men of the Most High dwelled among the men in person of Yahweh Hamashiach. Okay, so the New Testament, he dwelled with the men in person. In the Old Testament, he dwelled with the Israelites. Okay. So there's a precept for that, and we're going to go to John, the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 4. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 4, and it reads, "In him was life, and the life was the light of men." Okay, so through the Most High, the penalties of law are reversed, and the contamination of this world had and has no effect on the Most High. So what I'm saying is, you notice how it's mentioned that if the woman touches anyone, they become unclean. In this case, that's not so. So when she touched the hem of the Most High's garment, she became clean. She did not make him unclean. He made her clean. Okay? So Yahushua immediately responds to the woman's touch of his clothing, and Salah. Yahushua immediately responds to the woman's touch of his clothing and healing. People were pushing, they were pressing, they were trying to get to him. They were all over him, right? So yet he turns and asks at this moment when she touched him, "Who touched my clothes?" And then we read that in Mark chapter 5, verse 30. So the disciples were in disbelief, right? But the Most High knew that healing power have gone from him. So as soon as she touched him, he felt the power of healing removed, like zap out of him. Okay, so he knew that it was something different by this touch from this woman. So note, we cannot steal a miracle from the Most High. He knows all, he sees all, and in this case, he feels all, right? He feels everything, he knows everything, he knows us backwards and forwards. So when we think we're getting over or we're doing something to get over on him, think again, okay? He already knows us. Don't forget, he created us, right? Okay. So the woman comes forward and explains herself to Yahushua. She clears up any misconceptions about her healing, which we learned in Mark chapter 5, verse 34. And it says, "Daughter, thy faith had made thee whole. Go in peace and be whole of my plague." Okay? Be whole. Okay? He immediately responded to her to let her know that she is now made whole. So the Most High moves into action by her faith. Okay? He knew she was unclean. Right? And even when he was in the middle of going somewhere else and doing something else, he stopped to acknowledge the faith in this woman who had an issue of blood. Okay? So Yahushua could have healed the woman, and he could have kept on walking, could have kept on going where he was going. He didn't have to notify, respond. He didn't have to do anything, right? She could have just been healed and went on about her way. However, this was a very different moment, because in Israelite law, if she was to touch an elder or if she was to touch a elder or a priest, she would have been put to death because she wasn't clean. Okay? So that's what makes this really special. When he noticed and when he felt that touch, he knew she wasn't clean, and he knew the penalties of that was. She did as well. Okay? So he knew that she had to have faith to touch me and be unclean, right? So she had to have faith in knowing that she would be okay. So that's why that moment was very important, and he had to acknowledge it. Okay? So Yahushua stopped what he was doing to acknowledge the result of this woman's faith and his complete and instantaneous healing. If this would, like I said, if this would have been any other time, any other person, because of Israelite law, she would have been put to death. But because it was our Father, she was given life. Okay? And that's because of her faith and her belief. Okay? She knew and had faith in knowing that if I touch him, I'm going to be okay. If I touch him, I'm going to be made whole. This 12 years of suffering, long suffering, will now go away. And because of her faith, it was taken away. Right? So, sisters, metaphorically. So, of course, we don't have any of our Father's hymns or garments to touch. So, metaphorically, is his word. Okay? So, when you read his word, when you absorb his word, when you meditate on his word, when you eat it and you chew it and you swallow it, you know, it's like a very good piece of steak. You know, you have it well done. You have all the trimmings on that steak, and you have to take your time to chew it so you can actually admire or enjoy the flavor of it, right? You take your time. So that's how his word is. You know, we have to, it's food, okay? We can't just throw it in there and swallow it. We can't just, flip it up like pancakes and toss it away, right? It's coming up with some things, right? We have to take our time and chew it. We have to take our time to taste the flavors of it. We have to take the time to enjoy it, learn from it, grow from it. You know, once we swallow it, we need to let it grow. It's a seed planted, okay, within us. That's his garment, metaphorically. So when you're going through those things, when you're suffering, long suffering, when you're suffering through not knowing who you are, when you're suffering through not being sure that you're doing the right thing, when you're suffering through my children are not listening to me, when you're suffering through that you might be with a man that might not be a man of the Lord, okay, and you try the spirit by the spirit, get with your brothers, right around your brothers. If they're not a part of that and they haven't been, checked out, they know how to go through the process, then maybe we need to check that out. Maybe they need to reach out to one of them for some assistance with that. But long suffering through things that is separating you from being closer to your Father, to our Father, okay? Call him. Get into his word. Meditate on it. Allow it to get in you. Breathe it, live it, okay? Your children, okay? I hate to say it, and I hope it doesn't happen. Unfortunately, some children are not going to make it. No matter how much we try, how much we pray, how much we try to give them the tools. However, this world has a hold on some of them. But we'll constantly pray together. We'll do corporate. We'll be together as a unit, making sure that we do all that we can. We will continue to edify, and we will continue to provide them with the tools. However, they have to be open to receive them, and they have to be open to listen. Okay? Family members. They're going to be family members that we're unfortunately not going to be able to be around. It hurts. I have some young sisters, they have family, they're young, they're living with mom. Mom is like, what are you doing? Um, all kind of things. It's causing dissension. And it's stressful because in this time we should be drawing all together, but however, we can't draw together with people that are not like us. Okay? So, Aquas, I love you with my whole heart. Okay? So, let's absorb this message. Let's meditate on it and practice it. Okay? It is the only way that we can transform and transcend. I will see you soon. Shalom.